They entered down the stairs, eyes squinting as if to suggest caution, as if like they don't know what they are walking into. They know. With a lumber there resembles a kind of floating, gradually gaining weight with each step until finally finding themselves at the large elevated brick counter. The counter resembles a crest of some medieval castle top from Scotland. Never a shortage of balding elderly men tinkering here. Doors left open like to advertise the vacant desperation that accompanies loneliness in its fully exposed and lurking nature. I was in London momentarily right before to the lockdowns, shook by the nurses. That's where I found myself deep in the snowy Alps, learning how to make little porcelain chess game pieces which were to be played within an Egyptian Ouija board crossword puzzle, the likes of which Confucius himself would certainly either massively roll his eyes about, that is, if not for being too busy with vomiting in his own mouth. Okay, so you get the picture, right? Envision a chessboard, a tarot card deck strictly for the purpose of words, to talk about the birth of Jesus, and I was on this rant about how I'm out on this high mountain and that's all the snow I am. People. Bloody handle, I mean, heaven forbid, I am from the town, know only by the fact that it is situated next to buttfuck nowhere. Did I mention that I was totally unprepared for any of this, and it must have cost someone a fortune to get me here? So you bet your brass nuts they'd be regretting that decision, especially now that everyone can finally see what I'm wearing. Anyway, the shock caused a 2.8% avalanche, naturally causing a crisis because all of our swags for the snow sculpting exhibition relied solely on the steady flow of cultural bankruptcy. I gasp and exclaim that it was time to call Hitler, because any person in their right mind knows when it comes to heroes there are wannabes and then there are wannabes. The fight was on. I was making myself look busy with this Egyptian birth of Jesus concoction which had anybody of any authority think twice before questioning my precious feature. Fantastic. To put it into perspective, I was in a classroom where all of these candy-hooped horse-shaped telephone numbers had been thrown on the floor, completely covered, relentless, like a Nazi street in all its glorious propaganda paper drippings. Calling no screaming to all these children who came in for you, my friend, so happy to support the promise. Some distant shadow was in the bathtub I knew well, but not so much anymore. The leader was stern and wanted to teach the inner circle about how last night was not ideal due to the direct conflict with the bigger vision. I wish you were scared of a Spider-Man, or even a spider, anything for that matter. As it stands, for you to see my nude female body parts makes me think you'd say to yourself, she might not much dance tonight, or will she? I see through your primitive charm, I say with my eyes, but no one is there. Perfect timing to make the most of this opportunity. Oh, how typical. Setting up any fraction of purposeful intelligence or the like of that thereof just seems laden and reeks effort. Military language, more low lies. We got attacked by intentions. Anyway, that's easier said than done. Barry Otto and I shared a studio. Wendy Whiteley came to visit and she laid on the floor in all black against an all black background, and I want to shoot a photographic her. She was quite happy that I asked in such a polite way. I remember talking about painting with a lady that I was standing with, telling her that you either choose your subject matter and visit it every day, and that is what you paint, or your subject matter visits you every day, in which case, that is what you paint. In the studio Barry and I shared there was a loft, and Nastya came to visit. Later that evening after we left, we went to an opening at Rosalind Oxley Gallery and stormed in with an collector who knew the ropes and walked in quite confidently. We looked at paintings from a lady who was having an opening and was being photographed by a photographer as she stomped on the ground with golden paint on the bottoms of her shoes, holding a ragdoll of a dog, with the photographer asking her to smile as she held the dog. I recall before all this, driving a car, an old car, in the street with other cars getting in my way in a somewhat out of control manner, and finding myself trapped off-road in a skate park where I was trying to get it back out of. I had a large painting in the car and somehow the car had come completely apart. As I was trying to put the car back together and exited from the skate park, I came across a painter who was painting very large works on the floor outdoors. I was very impressed with his style of portraiture. He seemed to be from Italy. He had made many paintings in the one space, with the top painting's nose arisen from some concrete sculpture that was in the center of the floor on the ground outdoors in which he worked. We introduced ourselves. He was a much better painter than I was. At the opening at Rosalind Oxley, I ran into Charles Waterstreet, who was handing out little yellow syringes full of something. I'm not sure what was in them, maybe candy, maybe not. I didn't want one. Charles looked in very good spirits and health. I decided to call the body of work I had even working on in my studio boy porn. I'm not sure why exactly, but I just figured this was an excellent title. Now that I'm awake, I still think this is an excellent title for a show of superhero paintings. To wear your face on the outside is in itself an act of disregard toward the system. The system is best described as a colony of submissive and confused semi-life forms, otherwise known to be labeled as zombies. Only that stereotypical theme has been exhausted and bores me. They know themselves only from the side views captured while walking alongside shop front windows, and only as regularly as they build the courage to remove that intense gaze from the boy of fire filled with mostly lies burning so dark and vicious within that sweaty tiptoe palm. On the brink of another social eruption, cares not for things like those shaped as feelings, nor for feelings shaped like things whom no other like them or their kind live without, or heaven forbid know not of yet. I asked her what her thoughts are on the war and out of the killing of children and the starving of babies. She replies, help yourself first. I can't think about people being killed on the other side of the world. I'd rather be saving my compassion for something closer to home, she says. I don't go on TikTok. I can't help the world, so I don't really want to. I can't help it to think that there is logic in her words. Maybe 20, maybe scary, never fairly trading a spinner. Saturday night dinner, evening in winter. Someone in all of them served in a dog pen, tinfoil trails 2:30 daytime served like it's night lab 23 locked and never with one out. Sweepers keep stock room locked. Room locked. Always call them over. Should be fucked. But that's life when you haven't got bail. That's life and here no mail. Only notes. Being totes. Suspects through another lion A. His cell not mine. Bad aim cause that's a fucked up course. What's mine is mine and what's yours is mine too. Best fix crumb. In here nowhere to run. Mate, best believe you'll be pumped for fun. In L lad. Should be real drab. Cunts mad all day. Wake up straight cray. Either train, main or crab. Find your place quick lad. Smart boy you get stabbed. Take your buy up.
I'm not sure why they feed these flashing freakout strobe bots with the thing that makes everything in life easier. Addiction is a dangerous kind of almost orgasm. It's all about the climax once you're an addict. Addiction in its truest form is basically foreplay for death. The sounds coming out from these machines are not unlike that of tiny metal horses trotting around a stale tin biscuit box. Memories of childhood candy, shops full of 3-year-old strawberries and creams, and Chico baby's aroma permeate the air in strong and acute punctuations. Territory is marked out in corners as passengers of these timeless pits echo motions until their pockets are dry. Visually, one would assume, to an amateur voyeur like myself, it could come across as overwhelming, like I'm sure for many the constant and intense audio mixed with forever changing blinding and flashing lights of images would, I'm sure, set a person susceptible to epilepsy into a seizure. I ask my friend, I wonder how people with epilepsy would cope in this environment? She replies, oh, people like that don't come here. Numbers and symbols of luminescent, jingle-fueled, intensity shudder about, while excited shapes appear to reign supreme upon the ones who push the buttons. Big bangs, pops and ascending high-pitched reward sounds set the scene. Hopes for a three-of-a-kind combination shave off bad memories. And with that, each spin of the heavy-headed monkey, casually slumped on the shoulders of those whom choose to lurk amongst these bells and whistles, digs its heels in just that little bit deeper. Between all the buttons slamming, I hear a distant sound in the background from a radio station. Top pop hits, I hear it announce. Scrolling the past 30 years, the voice boasts, yet produces a Gwen Stefani song where she sings about a getaway. If only I could convince my friend, or anybody in this trap place for that matter, to do as the song suggests, and simply just get away, not a chance. She is up from $50 to $150 winnings, she tells me with a giant smile on her face. Leaving out the fact that we have both been sitting here for the past hour and smoked at least 4 cigarettes each. Oh yeah, she says while stretching her legs and arms out wide. Where else do we go? After this, she says these words in a kind of, catch me if you can kind of way.
Since I was a child, from about 5 years old, I can distinctly recall being as large as the universe. I would be in the bathroom at my grandma's, and just by closing my eyes and concentrating ever so slightly I would grow exponentially, my eyes closed and without a single thought in my mind. I would begin to grow at great speed in my imagination. To this day I still have the power to do so. As equally as I would grow to the scale of the universe grasping the earth, and all that was in it between my fingers, as they would circle around their tips, until the sensation could be confused for rolling a small ball or marble with 2 fingers, I also possessed the power to experience the shrinking that came thereafter. Neither was more enjoyable or exciting than the other. I somehow always felt that this was the universe's way of reminding me that I am as special and fundamental as I am not. This has always been okay with me. My grandmother was a great influence on me.
Staying awake is like starting halfway in a race to go back to sleep again. Some of the most vivid and real hallucinogenic experiences I have encountered have been whilst depriving myself of sleep. In these times I felt as though I could see from the past, souls walking among us. Some people called them shadow people. Fiction versus fact. Facts are only good if you can prove them. Proof is only good if you can exhibit it as a fact. This is otherwise known as evidence. When it comes to evidence, especially in regards to determining one's truth, it is imperative to have documentation.
To believe or not to believe is but a conscious decision between determining fantasy based on an assumed true story. Faith and belief are similar to, conceptually speaking, dreams being the contrary to goals. Having dreams is dangerous for several reasons. Having goals, however, is essential when it comes to seeking achievable outcomes. This is the social dilemma when it comes to the topic of religion and spirituality. We are taught mainly by intelligent achievers to shoot for the moon, and we may hit the clouds. Meaning, don't be disappointed if you fall short of your goal. This is an important matter of fact, especially when one is working within the realm of physics, i.e., weight, mass, matter, time, space, reality, etc. The way you told me that the Earth was about to collide with a comet the other day actually made me feel kind of comforted. The way we would all have just gone, all of us, just all gone just all at once. I want to play guitar like I don't know the rules. Actually, I want to do all those things like I don't know the rules. This leads me into the fundamental distinction of defining the differences between the moral concept of good behavior and bad behavior, and the relationship or lack of it in regards to right behavior, and that of wrong behavior. There are major differences between these definitions. As a society we naively group each to the other in attempt to avoid confusion. This is due mostly to simplify judgment for the purpose of legalities. What I'm trying to say is right does not always mean good. And wrong does not always mean bad. If I hear voices, I'm crazy. If I heard voices in my head, I'm a crazy person. If I hear only one voice, then that single voice. Is that the voice of God? In reflection on my Christian brotherhood, would I too speak in tongues? Is this to what it is to be crazy? I fear that if God were to speak to me in another voice, even if it were him simply sounding different, then I must admit, for tally of my own health, be that of the mental fashion, I become struck with the burden so heavy, special load kind of heavy, crazy man mind heavy. Please God, don't change your profile picture. It always confuses me when you do that. The fool listens to the idiot in the same way that the idiot believes what he speaks of, which he heard from the news on the television, no doubt. This is the product of a fact shaped like some kind of deformed incarnation of the truth. He follows the masses by believing the media in a mirage otherwise known as the brainwashed foolhardy mainstream, mistaken search for knowledge within a vacuum of misinformation. If yin and yang gave a damn about anyone other than themselves, they would find a way to work together. If not to simply regroup and go their own separate ways, then at least not to act so judgmental of the each other all of the time. Eyes fade out to a suspicious squint. The security guard is unsure of if he should mind his own business, or ask to see my pockets emptied. Just because you bought a pug does not mean you are young or beautiful. We sit in spaces marked out as if we were in a center for learning, the fine art tactics of anti-socialism. These button pleasure stupors. These fools scroll as if to claim by doing so grants the child the reward previously reserved for souls who made true sacrifices in ways too physical and mentally challenging for today's scroll-tempered pseudo-intellectualized child of grandiose could compare. Hence the kind of stupid to which I refer comes naturally to the fools whom speaks for others and listens to none. They say knowledge teaches while wisdom listens.
In today's current climate, knowledge is being forgotten while wisdom patiently waits for technology to die. When the past was erased, the lies became the truth. If ever there was hope, it almost always lies in the truth. Sharp eyes fade out to yet another suspicious squint. The streets are dark. Not that there would be anything or anybody to bear witness to, even if light were to be present. The life that passes about ever so occasionally is that of a tiptoeing, fear-filled lumbering sack of matter. There is no lurking, no stomping, no laughing, no sounds or signs of connectivity or character at all. The ones that shuffle about after dark seem confused and definitely lonesome. Completely COVID of emotion. Barren of character. Barren of soul energy. A man sits in a dark corner and eats his chips loudly, as if in protest of my similar despair. A dead city is like a board game gathering dust on the shelf of an abandoned library or playroom from which used to be active. Like those images of classrooms and shops after they've been evacuated wastefully, in preparation of a nuclear disaster. Only in this case the dust that gathers on these boxes of board games is the flecks of failure, the flakes of despair, and hopes lost to dreams of what was, what could have been, or what was once possible. The beach need only ever fear a wave once a wave realizes the shore has reason for fear.
Okay, so maybe talking about crime, staying up all night and doing drugs with newly released prisoners isn't such a great way to start the weekend. Oh well, there's no undoing the muted reality thus unfolded before me now. He was bendy, to say the least, when he left the studio and made his way down the long and winding staircase. His drunken stumbling was prolific, and my mind found it hard to imagine losing him in the time it took me to retrieve my keys. This was a failure on my part as a last China. The heavyset, hard-hitting, stern, glaring, drunken and drugged man was nowhere to be found. I lost China.
Panic is a good friend. I love to say goodbye to. One thumb down for the place where our people are not. Saturday rolls into stomping like a rattlesnake monster baby who are the songs for far too good taste for losers like this. I'll be 60 to one day. Colors too tight. Looks of despair. Tight-haired lady has a bad look. Nice smile for a vanilla sky wannabe slut. Dreams of little pot-sized cocks for candles on her cake, happy summer. Platypus boredom, melting with bright stains amongst hundreds of lost idiots too stupid to roll like they don't even know they could or want to. Damned as heat, bolt hard spent was on loan. This first step hurts more in the moment of overexhaustion. Patrons gather, wallets throbbing. They gather as scorching lava does bubble and popping, as if to suggest the time it summons. Its demons is nigh. Volcanic aftermath shapes to all modes of rapture. More like to shake the core futile efforts of this. Sweating heaving monsters. This is Club 77. The space is a crystal bitch going home to buy some chips. This thing wraps up like a force. First cranking at the wheel and second like a laughing dead man. Girls jog to the store with arms out being told they have but only 1 minute. Why Uber's here so damn quickly? I'll be like 2 minutes, she screams behind herself, she laughs and does not look back. Big bags of trash, thumped onto the sidewalk. No sound other than that of waste being chewed. The sporty type has a thick neck and short temper. If I could only write all the time I would. The thin-lipped boy, stern-faced, young in years but certainly long enough in the tooth to have obviously put some damage to sleep. That tidal wave of nostalgic punk anarchist is long worn off, no matter for the one look, screaming from but just under the surface is enough to convince most surface-level dwellers that he's only interested in these types of lifers. Works behind a desk, but dreams of giving the impression that he is the roaring down the distant road in mud and guts, covered beast of metal-laced spunk. The computers don't fuck like the girls that need a bad boy ride. Didn't start drinking until the age of 23, but didn't let that slow his determination to act the fool in public. The only difference was that before alcohol he was better at it. Some never get the hang of walking out in public. It's not an easy thing to do well at the best of times, let alone with ice, squinting for the blunt parallelization best showed upon a crowd of angels, shrieking with glares of disapproval and crippling shame. Sounds of waste shaped like laughter for the names no one cares to hear. Sides chosen with these beneath color will always be color, and lips will always be shaped like strange things on faces or children, dress-ups and jobs and responsibility. My witness is in better shape than me. Sheepdog learners for the inevitable glares from those at one like fiery balls of distance thrust to plunge within one's character by brute riddles hammer droppers in the rooms. They send the ones this convincing than others assent to the hollow terms. The end is not as pretty as the outside appearance of a compassionate ear. When one is going to feel whole, can one feel an apple in a hole of holy tribulation? Looking up German words in English is like blinking and mistaking it for flashing lights. Freaking me out sight said I'm not around loud voices like tourists surely mentally disturbed, screaming we were allowed to stand in the park. Is that true though? Psychopath girl. Moral compass they are not here. Day number 4. No day what about it? On my way there like right now. How old are you? If you are old enough to get your mum pregnant, you can have a baby until you're like pub. Lucid is strong and told to have the ability of a 33-year-old. Huge steps in the department of motor skills, lasting the teenagers at some waist up to take any issues set in place. Deciding only statistics make me nervous, especially when neighbors come knocking. You know when you're too old to be playing techno in a bedroom, with everyone taking over each other. Every wish the pretty boy lives next to sucking reptiles. From this occurring darkness within balls of flames sent from deranged spaces. Wearing the perfect size smile sounds like 1 million best friends and lovers wrapped forever in plant-shaped smells. Familiar to touch specialized ways, many lessons to make friends turn into riddles, dressed, techno wearing also driving some loud sound kind of always never going the distance. He admits the girls make her name herself, depending whether or not messages speak out loud in colored phone cases shapes like drugs.
Mr. Teabags waits for me outside. His face a mess with special Whopper sauce and chewing with mouth wide open, no doubt. When the mysterious bike he greeted me with became a point of issue, that being for the reasons, 1, it was a fixed gear, and 2, the fact that it most certainly was stolen. When I asked Teabags where he's gotten the bike from, that's when we both realized that it was a mystery because from whom he did not know. I haven't seen Mr. Teabags in some time, not for this reason. I imagine that he's back in the mental health ward of the Prince Charles Hospital. That's where he usually is when I can't find him. In the time spent negotiating with boredom, one's thoughts become the primary currency when advanced work is found within most things of actions which are located outside of selfish satisfaction or contentment. It is in these moments when we realize that true originality can only be built from a place, and from minds of those whom exist and create without ego. Numbers of currency exchange flicker about as Wall Street wankers get on and rush to bathrooms in order to gain popularity. Stocks fall as quickly as it takes for yet another Wall Street wanker to dart off to the bathroom, keys jingling, as if to ring a kind of meeting call bell for more wankers and sluts to join his herpes party trap.
Maybe Italian, maybe French, definitely Russian, in all the wrongest and most desperately in need of a decent reason to obtain a visa in any other country except their own kind of way. If not for the shape of their fear to be forced to return home, being almost equal to the dread of having to admit of where they were born. Fuck it. Let's just pretend that war doesn't carry colored rags and dust-flavored memories built upon decades of elders whom threw their lives away for the youth, only to be sprayed with Coca-Cola syrup, dressed like Santa, mounted on a giant holy cross for television and told they did a good job, because now they do taste like candy. Fill me with lies and tell me I'm free. Tell me I'm dumb and that that's a good thing. Then invoice me $300 for taking the time to answer your telephone call. Tell me you are returning a call I never made. Now give me a quiz that has only 2 answers, with the question being the same meaning as both answers. Welcome to call waiting. Thank you, please come again, beep beep beep. Nobody wants to corner a beast. Not out of fear of what they may do, but more so purely to protect their innocence. A beast is a wild thing, and wild things should be preserved. Things of this nature should be kept as natural as possible for as long as possible. If not simply to maintain their originality in order to study them, then to simply respect their privacy. Innocence is a beast, innocence is a thing of nature, innocence should be maintained for as long as possible. Embarrassment is a confronting emotion. Nobody wants to catch their parents masturbating. We question his sexuality but collectively have no doubt that he had surely caught the gay. We determined this based on the fact that he is wearing peach. If it wasn't for the scabs on her face, I'd say she were pretty. Maybe even gorgeous. Okay, that was over the top. After all, it is 6 a.m. on the first day of the year.
The new days coming will not be like the old times. The old times shake about my mind and mortal frame, they rattle on loosened cage bars made of steel in big forward motions, like heavy-footed and wild bag handlers fighting over scraps of food with giant and as fiercely hungry rats. Grandma is in my mind more often these nights. I wonder of my actual origins. I know I am great and I know I am powerful. But I don't know how. I'm sure there is more to me than meets the eye. Powerful, yes. I am an extremely powerful and strong animal. A fine and divine creature in many ways. A creature of the night, some might say. When the wind blows, it makes a scratching sound on the hard dark road. That road has seen me fallen. It has seen me prancing with bottles of wine and women. It has seen windows smashing by women too, and love to stomach being human anymore. When love turns you into a demon, it's time to count your chips and cash out, I reckon. How dare the blood of Jesus be wasted in such an uncomfortable fashion? If Jesus was alive today and we were all hanging out, I'm sure he would stand up sharp and strong with arms straight down his side, in the dramatic light of a campfire, or pile of burning bodies for that matter. He would march up front, this disgusting brute of a man, in swift stride, and with not a second hesitation slap him so hard that evil little head of a tumor-riddled maggot-filled stupor clap bang explodes. Scorpion demonic like painter Picasso, whatever his last words were doesn't match much count when it comes to finding obscure memories on Google or hiding from the police for that matter. I am running a risk. If the risk I run had a voice, it would be loud and slowly poised. It would speak in a very low tone and be shaped like the look of a deeply sharp and frowning face. Some people just want to be known as true and real cranky arseholes. Disgust is an emotive vibration. To thrust such a force onto another is absolutely a corner of understanding I will never feel comfortable standing in a room with. Like something fantastic except in reverse. Being a naughty girl looking for trouble often interests me quite a lot. The section of one's mind that helps unlock doors with keys made of metal, hopes and professional people with paperwork to prove their opinions. They hold of matters that mostly do not concern themselves yet are qualified to render absolute truth. A love letter to a woman can be a work of art. I think of beauty. Sometimes I wonder if beauty is just a construct that was invented and maintained for the super rich. He says no one is getting back to him, and it being 5 a.m, it's completely understandable. Okay, I say, we will sort something out tomorrow when he gives me his number. It's a sweet thing for a man to surrender his mindlessness. Texts and talks pass us all by, all the while the elephant in the room, that being, me leaving this place and entering my fear zone, I call this doom, render me like a non-existent, same picture thinking, how did it get this bad? Thinking also, What if it's like the last string you have, like that's just how it is, so thanks, but also it did end badly. Well, it doesn't get much worse. Sounds like shuffling, and you still see her and he still draws, but only to make the table shake violently for the sole purpose that being to force me to not rest upon it. Some great things in life pull together when one thinks more about real topics and the relationship of all things in it along with the system alike. When it's late and the cat named Cherry meows, I know that I'm pushing my luck. But am I really? The full moon is coming, and that makes past fuck-ups feel less like sabotage and more like exciting new starts.
Deep internal thoughts quietly fill my mind about the kingdom of God. Cut off my head, for I have no need for it. That is, of course, if the ones who command others to behave like sheep are actually in need of a shepherd themselves. 5 roads, 3 camels, and 2 fish is all they were reported to have had. Egypt was full, if not brimming with heaven-sent disciples, then I can't help but to wonder what the size of the problem really was.
This is when the faces of less fortunate people scrunch up inwardly. Inwardly, like to suggest that as if the open projection of their act of joy triggered an exact frequency of emotion upon them, that being only in the opposite direction to that of the privileged ones. It is almost amusing, the irony of how, what goes around comes around. In wonder to myself as I take a walk in the park, is it true that no debt will go unpaid? If this is actually the case, the debt credits I am earning in times like these will surely be enough to pay for your pain too?
I want to be a kangaroo. Or a tissue wearing a t-shirt.
It's all like one giant coffin. The light is right in their face. A little vampire human attempts to make a joke inside my head. I remind him that it is not his job to be funny. I'd hang up the phone if only there was someone on the other end that sincerely, or at least, could pretend really well that they were offended or even a little shocked. I'd even settle for the thought of this imagined person gasping with mouth open wide, as wide and gasping as the openness of one's eyes, as they say, in a British accent. How rude. People tell me the titles of literature that I would laugh, and I really should read, and I entertain them by jotting down what they say. Cups, cats, an unmade bed, I say to her. That's what I'll call my next book, I say. I have an ashtray. I can even see it, but I don't use it for all the talking about how much she loves the new vacuum cleaner her mum bought her. I'd rather at least give it an opportunity to put it to some use. 5 cats, and she thinks they can understand her words. Unless she's my angel, so many tinker and conquering of little bells. She talks at them and chases them about like imaginary friends. They are watching me. They are listening to me. They are harassing my friends and my family. I am being hunted. Strange days. These days something like a word that meant something so profound that I had enough energy to write it down but not quite enough energy or effort to make it legible proves the worth of the purpose. I'm in limbo. Questions are exactly like answers except they are just in reverse. Cheetahs spelt backwards spells dickhead, that's a palindrome. So is party trap, race car, and I'm so white I have the time to write down my dumb thoughts. How's that for a beginning to a how-to book? Pretty good, I reckon. But what would I know? I like to tuck my dick in between my legs and pretend I'm Marilyn Monroe. When one puts a cigarette out on their tongue, it is important to make sure that one's tongue is very moist. Preparation is key to doing this effectively. Just gave 2 bronze angels away that will live forever to 2 separate and very rich very old men. Money is a funny word for survival. When I set an alarm to wake up in the next morning, a little piece of me dies inside. Humor is the key to avoiding all types of confrontation. When one can be the fool and turn a potential fool situation into a joke on themselves, the result becomes that similar to committing suicide of the ego. It gets easier to do this as age softens your soul temples. Right in the MPEG. Banana Republic. Public redundant. We laugh at my stupidity as I say out loud, what's another word for dyslexic? Oh, yeah. Retarded. We laugh again. The best way to describe how telling lies is to imagine a skull full of reptiles. Snakes in eyes and mouth. Reptiles telling lies is like eating snakes, best left for the experts to handle. The best way to go on the run is to become homeless and dress in bad old ladies' clothing. The most important part is to wear women's high-heeled shoes. That detail is very important to always maintain. The best thing about being a homeless crossdresser is cops don't want to talk to you. The hardest part about giving a fuck is accepting others' passion for hating on others for doing so. Usually for reasons buried within emotions like, well, mostly jealousy. This is why it is extremely dangerous and counterproductively to do so will only bring dark thoughts. Will I get spitty in the night? It's as if a hammer has taken a liken to this ferocious fever. I wake in this windy weather. My pen hand is a little long in the tooth, lest it not be for my next day's coming.
I am not domestic, I am luxury. And for that reason I am necessary. It's when I am at my most cleanliness, which are the times I find myself despising the filthy rotten life that I have lived. Well, I say that I am, but in reality I actually in fact know this is not true. I would be doing myself a disservice to sincerely refer to myself in this gusting incarnation, if it be in any other context than that of an educational sense, that being relative to any kind of or like of a gauge, in which time becomes the measure of one's regularity in context to one's actions being a true indicator of one's actual and innate self. Self, of course, being the truest definition of one's character based on the continual study of one's own actions, thoughts, and the consistency in which one processes such functions, whether those functions be that of good, bad, or any other nature beyond or between any of the previously mentioned polarized factors. Walking never made a woke girl wet. It's true she is quite a bit of a sook when you get to know her. She's also very good at overreacting and being dramatic, but that so happens to be the case with most women, it would seem. The lack of regularity in regards to such behavior is mostly minimal. A younger me would surely borderline seldom. I therefore feel that this impression is providing some hope for the time being. But the red flags are there nonetheless. I'm just a monkey looking for something to clap on. She's really good at finding stuff. If everybody simply minded their own business, the world would be full of savvy entrepreneurs. You can teach a dog to order, but you can't give it taste. This is in reference to teaching graffiti fonts. Once again, abruptly awoken by fairly loud smashing and banging on my flimsy front door. Sitting up in such a state of shock can't be good for one's overall well-being. Well, that may not be entirely true. Maybe it's like one of those crazy early morning ice baths or something. Either way, the monster known as Short as rapping on my chipboard door. At first, when I commenced to get dressed at the time while quickly looking for a weapon in order to protect myself in the event, for if Mr. Shaw, aka the monster, was to break quarters succeeds. Clarity of intentions to confront me is still a mystery to me. What is clear, and I only know this because they were the only audible sounds I could make sense of between the smashing and bashing sounds, these words were clear and simple, memorable. In fact, I'm going to kill you, it yelled. Many times it was said. He's crazy. Like he actually is crazy and he actually needs help. I thought I'd being nice, like extra nice, and even I like cleaning his apartment, would somehow inspire him, or somehow give him some sort of motivation to maintain the standard that I helped. This wasn't the case at all. Actually did the opposite, and I'm certain that the monster does not know how to live like a man. She wears a dark pink hooded sweater. Her dark complexion is not unlike that of a shadow. The shade cast from old stone buildings in Rome is sometimes up to 15 degrees cooler than when standing in the sun. How long she has sat here watching her phone is unknown. What is known to me of the glance I take from the position my eyes set themselves, she is chilling. Far from the two rude boys in my main view. Two sitting together, occasionally giving me this kind of Harry Potter, I got something to do today kind of look. Fuckheads, otherwise known as girls that age aren't up and eating fast food at this time of the morning unless they are actually a product of living in the red pill matrix. 2. They are strippers and on their way home from adorning laps all night for men, strange, excited and dribbling men with pockets of shame shaped like currency. 3. They're frigid tourists that just haven't fallen into the time zone sleeping trap yet. These hands and the powers they possess never present short age of intrigued and amazed leagues of beautiful and equally amazed young women, whom lust for their image to become rented by the
Con men are much like prophets. They share the qualities of a prophet, a salesperson and an alchemist. A prophet, a salesman and an alchemist, in any order, equal the same position. This ultimately equates to a common-day con man. Granted, each possess the charisma to portray the power of presentation in order to manipulate others' perception of their position, they will be successful in their trade. Bad salespeople can't sell anything. Good salespeople sell things that either don't belong to them and/or things that don't exist. A great salesperson doesn't ever have to sell anything at all. Just because you got a wolf on your backpack, doesn't mean your wolf pack has got your back. More often than not, in fact, your friendly wolf mate is more likely to eat your fucking face off in front of your girlfriend. That is, unless it's her that's doing the face eating in the first place. 1,000 less lives make sacrifices for our entertainment on the moving picture box tonight. Like it's even going to make a difference, I wonder quietly to myself. The undisclosed amount of active human planned obsolescent elimination is comparable to the amount of grains of sugar used in the making of any block of candy on any given day. If my knee was exposed, I'd draw a face on it and cradle it like a baby. That baby would love me with a passion so powerful that if it were to take shape as any form other than an emotion, it could be described as resembling a volcanic eruption.
They leave as if to make a point about the fact that they even came in to begin with. As if to suggest that the very purpose of our relationship, and in some cases their whole existence, is based on a foundation which lends me to feel almost responsible for them. Responsible, being a word that I use in place of words to the effect of, like to be credited for, etc. Okay, at risk of sounding vain, I know what I am and of course others want that too. It's true though, I'm tired of it all. The tests are shaped like people who I can't distinguish between those that want to fight me and those that want to fuck me. How quickly they switch from some, on my dick fanboy, to some full-blow, shit-talking haters, sometimes as quickly as the time that it'd take a fat man to sit down. His hair is like a rabid flea-bitten dog, a filthy dog left to wear the ground to dust for as long as its chained neck will permit. The beast stomps with a smile, yet many frowns hide behind those sheltered narrow eyes. Eyes of a monster private boys' school brat child man. Eyes which sit far too close together, almost as if to suggest some form of degenerative genetic condition. Regardless of this fact, there is no excuse for the pure lack of self-respect or respect for others. A meat-like smell hovers all around him. Not the kind of meat smell from a kitchen, but the kind of meat smell that comes from a butcher. That kind of fresh dead meat smell. He talks and talks, as if anybody that can hear him is interested. I don't mean to sound rude, but he speaks in gibberish, numbers and words that resemble actual language in some sort of indecipherable form which he is so proud to loudly present. He calls himself a philosopher, he claims to be rewriting the Bible. I am embarrassed for him. Kill me dead from pure shock of his audacity, my lord, either that, or kill him, my lord, kill his ego, my lord. That sized ego is only fit for entities like yourself, my lord. Facts melt into concepts of fantasy as time either stains them or shines them into glorious recollections. These deep memories I recall are exactly as I remember them. Their lies hurt my feelings. The ups wouldn't feel so shallow without the downs so full of dark shit I never knew. Party faces shaped like spiders hiding between the logs by the fire of which we sit beside. The rich men win again. Never knew a cat to get a cold. Top cat never got a cough or spent a single day in a doctor waiting room. Top cat lived in a bin.
Sydney is a fucked up kind of bin. A tiny little pretty fucked up bin full of top cat wannabes, tall hat wearing, clean boot shining, paycheck over invoicing, liars and extortionists. Can't wait until this place is a been there done that memory place for me. So pretty much that, plus while I'm at it, you may as well flush all your money down the toilet as well, or at least stash it in barrels labeled, to be used for the purpose of kitty litter. That's strictly on the pessimistic side of financial opinions, of course.
Too bad I'm too much of a smart as fuck boy, stuck in my ways to give a shit what anybody thinks about me. Too old to bother pretending being good at holding my breath, or biting my tongue long enough, for the hierarchy notice, and permit me to work my way up the ranks of any kind of corporate institution ladder. The ones at the top are either very similar to myself, or they are completely the opposite, and certainly do not welcome individual creative thought. With a puffy bottom lip I think to myself, well old boy, you have survived this long without having to suck a dick, no bother starting now. It is important to not look unhappy most of the time. Even if that's how you may feel most of the time, it's best to not show that to the world. Facial expressions have a way of imprinting themselves on your soul.
People watching from a moving car is like trying to catch water with your teeth. Writing while people watching is like having a conversation with someone who has headphones in and is listening to heavy metal music. Writing while people watching from a moving car while listening to heavy metal music is like juggling a cat, a hammer, and a piece of paper. The weekend begins. I know what's going on, but I don't want to know what's going on. This zebra skin looks great all over that leopard print, the lady says to her friend as they walk in my opposite direction.
Giving advice is like telling rain clouds to let the earth know it's going to get wet.
So many stories, tales of misfortune, stories of fortune, betrayal, conspiracy, life advice, so on and the such. So many good and caring words, and actions. He's a doctor. We call self-medicating, because that is exactly what it is. There are unofficial qualifications he has. He's an angel. He's a doctor. He's a social worker. A counselor. Full of life hacks. For example, 1. When in a Centrelink interview, behave very coherent. Then right before you leave town to the empty chair next to you and say out loud, just stop talking to me, stop telling me what to say. Absolutely genius! Exclamation. Number 2, when arrested by the police, ask for your mother and for medication loudly, and in a staggered state of mind, almost to indicate that you are special, or at least definitely on the spectrum. To draw the line between intelligence and cheating is a difficult thing to do. Too much football, not enough men. Too many faggots, not enough dry wood. Too much punching, not enough safe sex. Too many rich people, not enough fat to fill the gap. Too much sport, not enough dabs. So sick and tired of being sick and tired. Attraction is such an unusual human condition. Each of us, or at least I hope that each of us, know what it is to feel attractive, if not all of the time, then for at least some time in our life. To be attracted to others is comparable to having some disabling kind of sickness. It comes upon oneself unexpectedly, and at times, can feel as though it resembles the force of a wave, smashing hammer of weakness. Robert asks, as if to suggest that there is another, for any other means of transport, of which one is to be able to exit and enter the country by some other means than that of by airplane. It was a moment of absolute dead still, like a silent wave of stupid crashed over all of us. It's at this moment, my mind runs off into dark imaginings of giant troll-like police beasts, bursting through the door, raging with fists to kill me. Q. Cypress Hill, we ain't going out like that ×3, regardless of how you pretend or try to hide it things to be. He mumbles in a quiet, distant accent that I could only describe as Russian-sounding. When we text I forget who I am talking to. He forgets my number. As I talk straight to the point, and even to clarify, I talk straight to the point in very basic caveman English. He thinks that I'm talking in code. His paranoia would be amusing if it was not at the cost of so much of my time. Some people like to kick others when they are down, like a rodeo. Something shaped like a soft voice explaining how a painting looks like, describing feelings in the absence of such in a triumphant stylish way. Time looks exactly as if it were to have a name and a number and obviously a phone to hold. Should a word like should be bothered to be used if certainly is involved? I think not. Reality is my friend. This sound from the world outside moved parts inside oneself like a small boy trapped in a box and dumped deep into a watery wet-filled doom. Face value, surface level. Take me home. Doom hunters like the morning light wishes to attack us. It's in moments like these that I realize how grateful I am for having been taught to be kind and gentle and polite. We all have souls. If you got a bank account, you got a soul. Disappearing often makes one feel a full sense of privilege. Forever is unlike the time being, even though the time being is somewhat at times our way of triumphing over our mortal concept of the forever. Waiting for anything is a performance, especially if the thing one is waiting for has the word ever incorporated in it. Fuck boy? Sure, I'll wear that. Sure thing. Go ahead, go right ahead and make a statement like you know anything about the real thing that makes things. You care about mirrors and fabric in ways that I care about fusion reactors. Piece of shit idiot, go sell another t-shirt you fucking twat. When the volume on the film I'm trying to watch is so low that I am forced to hold my phone to my ear and ignore the video, I get quite annoyed. Advertising agents are the slave traders of this time period. Weapons of mass seduction. Warlord brand names with big flashing sounds and bright battles with each other. They compete for the spaces between expensive locations reserved for those foolish enough to value their overrated self-worth. Roosters claw and shriek at one another in a very real and similar cunning. The tale of the fight will be told, this is for sure. But who are the ones left to tell? It is a completely unsure measure. An unstable dichotomy by which only losers are left, with a version seeming humorous to those whom study history. We sit, but not because we are tired. We eat, but not because we are starving. We fear even though we know not what it is to be dead. Tomorrow comes and goes in tide like breaths, often shaped like skulls in a river, bobbing just above the surface. Just enough for one to hop, skip and jump from one to the other, and so on and so forth until another river of torment greets us amongst the shadows in our wake. Paranoia is like an ugly twin brother with a disability that you always have to make excuses for. Nice narcissistic thoughts are like having to piggyback your ugly retarded brother around on your back as he continually keeps vomiting on your shoulder. Maintaining a healthy lack of self-worth is like being a donkey at a beauty pageant, and knowing it. I think one day that I'd like to become a taxi driver. I think I've thought this for a while now, maybe years even. There's something about the single serve, one way, see you later, style of the whole thing that interests me most. If there is one moonlighting job that I fantasized as much as taxi driving, he would have to be panhandling, you know? Like being a bum in the street. There's something very zen about it to me. The whole sitting in filthy rags at night and simply being the lowest of the low. I guess I'm attracted to being belittled and judged by people. I think I can handle it. I think that once I am millionaire and really comfortable, then that's what I will do. Of course I'll give all my earnings to charity. Well, obviously as a hobby, of course. Life used to be a lot easier and I used to be a lot harder. Now life is a lot harder and I am a lot easier to get along with. Storm approaching, making me sweat like tiny cars between Mack truck orgy time. When normal home life features come in sections of pink-flavored capsule dominance-shaped danger signs, it's time to quit closing your eyes so much. Heavy-handed jealousy served in 12 last stations of bullies come rags from here and until as far back as 35 years weighs in. I'm scared of outdoors, and with all this indoor energy inside me, it's sure to be another long night of waiting for my life to return. Normal is a feeling I've missed since longer than I recall the knowledge of it even existing. If answering calls and replying to messages didn't shake me with fear when I was a fresh young man, then what is it about them? Or me that has changed since? That shit crazy me thinking maybe too feral. Probs not probs the perfect person ever, but I'll never know because she is a she, I presume. Seek and destroy would be her middle name if I were to guess. He walks in like someone should give a shit. Turned out, I'm not paying any attention whatsoever. The fine line between next thing a half-large girl x steamy bathroom exclaiming, for fuck's sake, fucking hell, my fucking nose is bleeding. James repeats her phrase and I laugh and begin to reach for my notebook. You think you better than me just because you got a job? If it wasn't for the scabs on his face and the falling asleep on the telephone so often, one could mistake him for some sort of celebrity. The way he cares very little for whether he is on time to meetings that he clearly arranged in some other frame of mind. Now I found myself sitting beside a moderately raging ocean perched upon what seems for the time to be a safe vantage point while on top of these monsters. Most people refer simply to as rocks gives one a solid sense of stability. It's not until the tide's wild comes to kiss that one is awoken by one's fragility of mortal form. Too young to figure it out yet. Trans hybrid sex pest curiosity kids with all of the answers and none of the experience want to rule the world. I said give it to them. Fuck everything. The long version looks something like all the idiots working and crying silently. While most of the white people with money enjoy their afternoons either shopping for new mistresses or playing with other balding old men on their yachts or golf courses. No good comes from spreading pain. Her people certainly do hurt people. There's a big difference between reacting and responding. The exact difference is that of emotion. Emotion in the extreme as well as emotion in the absence. How someone could bring their life to scrapyard worth of thoughts enough to entertain lies and all rumors about people who are not even aware of their existence fills me with indifference. I don't wonder. I don't care. I definitely don't get worked up about them. It must be hard being stupid and always wanting attention.